What's up, guys? Sumner Healey here, and today I'm going to share with you a little known land investing strategy that honestly no one's really talking about. All the rage nowadays is subdividing or entitling, all these different strategies to force value for land deals. The problem is it's hard to do, and it's complex, and there's a lot of risk involved. So while I still like those strategies, I've unearthed a really powerful strategy that I'm going to share with you here today that gives you a lot of the same benefits of being able to force value in a deal without all the risk or with a whole lot less complexity. Now, before we dive in, if you guys want to get access to the greatest land investing program in the world, a program that not only teaches you skill of being a profitable land investor, but also how to build a serious land business on top of it, you need to go over to landinvestor.co/apply. Right down there, schedule a call with our team. We'll walk you through our unique strategy, this little sliver of a niche that we've carved out for ourselves in the land space that's changing lives. I want to share with you. Now, we only have a few spots available this week, so go click down there, see if we've got availability, and come build the business of your dreams. All right, guys, so I'm going to share my screen here in a second and walk you through exactly how to pull this off. There's some technical know-how that we need in the beginning. There's a little bit of software that we might need. But let me zoom out first and explain the strategy. So in the US, there's untold numbers of properties that lack what we call legal access. Now, there's two kinds of access that I think about. One is legal access. That means, is there a legal right of way to the property? The second one is there physical access? So you can have legal access, but is it even possible to get to the property or to even get to the interior of the property? In most cases, I like to have both. But today we're going to flip that model on its head. And we're actually going to pursue properties that currently do not have access, or at least visually, they do not have access. Some of these may have existing easements. You'll have to poke around through old deeds or old surveys to figure that out. But if they don't, well, this is where the value comes in. This is where the value creation comes in. Finding a property that either doesn't look like it has access and unlocking value by discovering that it does have access via an easement, or even better, going and creating access by going and creating your own easement. And so today we're actually going to be deliberately pursuing landlocked properties. I know, crazy. Now, in our standard marketing campaigns, we tell people remove the landlocked stuff from your data set. That's why we do that inside of Land Insights for our users. But I'm actually going to show you how we reverse that search to find deals that we can end up buying for 5%, 10%, 20% of what they're worth, and typically not selling at their max retail value. Typically, the physical access isn't great, but we can still sell it for 50, 60, 70% of what it's worth. And in some cases, you can even sell it higher. When we go and look at on paper, the returns from these deals, they are ginormous because there's a real arbitrage there, right? You're buying something that currently doesn't have access, or the world thinks it doesn't have access because no one's taking the time to go dig and look at it. And you're creating access. You're forcing value that way. Now, there's two ways to think about this. One is discovering that there is access. That requires probing through every deed that's ever existed associated with the property and looking at plat maps or surveys. And sometimes you can find something there. Alternatively, we can also talk about going and buying or creating an easement through one of the neighboring properties. Now, there's an even more advanced strategy which requires suing the state for access, and it's all based off different state laws. That's much more complex. We're not going to talk about doing that here today. We're going to talk about taking the easiest path forward. Now, if you find one of these deals that seems like, I don't know, Sumner, this looks interesting, I'd like to partner, you can always reach out to our team at sumner@thelandpioneer.com. I'm happy to walk you through this strategy and actually partner up on a deal together. Okay, so we are inside Land Insights. You don't have to have Land Insights to do this. It's going to make your life 1,000x easier, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so really, there's two things that we're going to focus on here today. There's two tools that you absolutely need to have. We're going to first start with land scrubbing. So with land scrubbing, typically what we're actually doing is we're going through and deliberately removing negative attributes. Like we'll automatically remove landlocked or flood zones or wetlands, stuff that we wouldn't want, right? But one of the interesting things that we can do is we can actually export the entire data set. So most people inside of Land Insights are going to export only the clean results, which says, don't give me any of the junk. I just want to market to the non-junk, which is fair, right? And I think for most of us, that's what we want to do 99% of the time. But there's also a time and a place in our marketing where we say, give me the shit, give me the junk, give me the landlocked. And we can create very hyper-targeted specific campaigns to go and pursue those landlocked properties. Now, I'm just going to pan through here. So I've got it set up right now so it's showing, we can actually kind of pan through this map and see what we got here. And I'm just going to make sure. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to click on only bad properties. So right now, I only wanted to show me the junk. Now, I'm going to establish a few things for you. Not all landlocked easement type deals are created equal, right? I'm thinking if I have to create an easement, which is always my first thought, right? You kind of have to assume that I'm going to go through that process. Now, I'll still probe and look for one, but let's just assume I'm going to have to go through that process. Not all these are created equal. You see, this is a deal to me that just wouldn't make sense. It's so far away from any county road. There's so many properties you have to cross through. This looks like a real thorn in my side. I'm looking for the ones that are 50 yards away from a road. I've got one property I've got to go through. Maybe there's already some kind of established road there, even though it's not a county road. I can tell someone's been driving. Someone has been using that for access. And a lot of times you'll find in the US, neighbors have like these handshake agreements for access. It's never documented or recorded, which that's all that matters. Handshake agreement doesn't really convey to us in any way. But I am looking for those triggers. I'm looking for those cues. So this one, this one, same story here. No go. This one, so you can see there's some kind of private road over yonder. I don't think that's a county road. And honestly, no, this is just a no for me. That's a no for me, dog. So what looks like a road here. This is a maybe, right? This is a maybe. If I zoom in, it looks like someone has been driving on this property. I might keep this one in. I'm not saying that this is going to be easy per se, but I see a bit of a proof of concept. I've seen that this has been cleared, right? So someone had to access the property, actually clear the property. I see roads all around. I would keep this one in. So this one I would keep in my non-clean data set. It's actually something that I would want to go and market after for this easement strategy. So that one would make the sniff test. This one, I don't like it. It's also just so buried back there. It's gonna, even if you have a road, it's gonna be really difficult to get to the property. Looks like there could be a semblance of a road here, but it's not like my style. It's not what I'm looking for. So here's an interesting one, right? You got a road here. You're close. And there's a bit of a clearing over here. I might keep this one in. You've got a river to cross or some wetland here, but this one, it tickles my fancy at least. I think there's something interesting. I would almost guarantee that the same owner that owns this one also owns this one. And sometimes that actually is a great strategy because I can buy from the one owner who also owns the adjacent properties and say, hey, look, part of me buying this deal is that I need you to give me access. And we've done that before and that works great. So that's something to look out for. That's just all around a junk property. That's a junk property. That's a junk property. That's a junk property. That's a junk property. Junk. Okay, now we're back to here. So this was a really small data set, right? This was like, whatever, 18 records. So there's really only a slew of possibilities that would actually catch my interest. Now, one thing that I need to preface is that with this strategy, more than likely what we're going to do is we're not going to close on the deal until we verify that there is access, okay? I need to verify there's already an existing easement, or I need to go create the easement before I close. I'm not trying to close on a landlocked property. I want the assurance of like, I've created access or we can guarantee access prior to taking title, because that's where all the risk happens. No risk to really tie this thing up and go and do your work. All risk once you close. Now, like there's some deals out there that are so good, maybe you just can't pass them up and you feel so confident the seller has to close. There's a time and a place. But for the most part, extend your closing, let the seller know what you need to do and go work it. So let's just imagine that we pulled whatever, 2 or 3 properties from this list. I'm going to go over here. I decided to skip tracing inside of Land Insight. So I'm just going to go and upload this. I've actually already done this here. I've already uploaded the file, so we don't need to worry about it yet. Everybody's saying, Sumner, what file are you uploading? Well, of course, I could skip trace the owners, the ones that we just pulled, but it actually doesn't really help me here. I mean, I could text them and cold call them. Let's just imagine I'm sending mail. What I actually want to do is take the ones that have responded from our marketing. Could be, again, whatever the marketing channel. Go take the adjacent properties around that you would need to actually contact to try to create an easement, and we skip trace them. So what we do is we market to the seller, okay, that owns the property. They reach out to us. They say, yeah, I'm interested in selling. I know my property's landlocked. We say, great. We can either tie it up or we can just kind of work it before we go under contract. We start contacting the neighbors to try to secure an easement. Now, there's a lot of different easement styles out there. And honestly, what you're going to need to typically do is get a survey, have a real estate lawyer help put this together for you with the legal jargon and the language. And sometimes a surveyor can help with some of the heavy lifting there, but you're going to need typically a survey first and then some kind of help. Could be on the title company side. It's pretty rare. Usually you're going to need some kind of real estate attorney to help with this. Now, I want to preface, there's a lot of additional strategies for creating easements out there. Again, some states say it's illegal for a property to not have access. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. So my first line of defense is let me go and call the neighbor. Now, if the property is vacant, there's not a house on it, usually his neighbors are pretty open to it. I mean, they might even do it for free. Maybe they'll do it for $500. Maybe they'll do it if they can get access to your property for like hunting or whatever. You can kind of barter and swap. Usually you're going to have to pay though. And for a lot of these owners with vacant land, $500, $1,000, it might be worth it for them, especially if we're just asking for what we call a boundary easement. That's just where we're going to run along one of the boundaries of the property. You might have 20 or 30 feet of width, pretty non-invasive. Now, if they've got a house on it, it might be a little bit harder, especially if it's a very invasive easement. If you have to drive right past their house, that's going to be a hard pitch. And they're probably going to say no, but still worth trying. Really little skin off your back. Now, ultimately, to make this strategy work, you've got to be aggressive on the outreach because it is hard to get a hold of these people. So don't expect that you're going to call once and you're going to get them right on the line. You're going to have to call multiple times. In fact, you're going to have to triangulate them from multiple angles. That's one of the things that's so important with skip tracing inside of Land Insights. One, we've got no minimum. So it's $1 minimum, but most platforms have like a 500 record minimum or whatever. It's $1 minimum because of Stripe. If I could make it a 6 cents minimum, I would, because skip tracing inside of Land Insights is 6 cents. That's essentially huge bulk pricing, but you can just do one record at a time if you want. It's the best deal out there in skip tracing I've ever seen. We also pull from every database out there. So our hit rate is in the high 90s, 98, 99, 97%, depends on the market. And that applies for trust, that applies for LLCs, that applies for everything. Where a lot of skip tracing platforms fall apart is with trusts and LLCs because they are hard to hunt down. We get it like that. The other thing is that we pull every phone number associated with that seller or that owner. We pull their email and we pull the relative's contact information. So now I just gave you 20 phone numbers and multiple emails. And so now you kind of start attacking from multiple angles. And sometimes what might happen is you call the uncle because you can't get a hold of the owner and the uncle puts you in touch with the owner. Like, it's definitely a game of triangulation. So we'll go run this here, 6 cents, export it, bam. We got our list. Okay, these are all the adjacent surrounding properties. I'm not going to share all the information, but you can see there's a lot of data in here. I know YouTube doesn't really like it when I share this information, but it just goes and 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 goes. It's pretty incredible. And so now you pick up the phone and you start calling. That's it. And this is how you can take a deal that's essentially dead, worthless, and massively force their appreciation. And this is a real value add strategy that does not take being a real estate developer or some expert level experience with working with counties or being a politician and trying to go to city council meetings to get your development approved. No. Anyone can do this. I think it's important that you have Land Insights so you can automate that scrubbing and get a visualization on everything inside your data set. One of the important things that we do inside of Land Insights is that we allow you to label and tag your data. So if you come down here, let's say I said, this looks like a great subdivide opportunity. On my keyboard, I press 7. I've just labeled that as a subdivide opportunity, right? We can do it for all of these filters down here. Now that might not seem super consequential if you're new to land, but what happens is now all the data you market to is labeled and tagged. So when you want to go do an easement campaign, a subdivided campaign, entitlement campaign, you've got all of this data here. And so we can use these search positively to remove junk from our data set. We can also do a reverse or negative search to where we actually want to go after, in quotes, the junk, because we know there's a value added angle there. I'm shocked more people aren't talking about this, but partially I think it's because people don't have access to this kind of firepower. And this has just revolutionized our land business. And honestly, I could have kept this a secret. It's a great strategy, but I want to share it out there. Now, my hope is one of two things. One, you get a deal. You say, Sumner, let's work on this together. I say, great. Now, for context, it can't be a small beans deal. Don't sell me an easement deal that's worth $3,000. It's not worth anyone's time. There's got to be real spread there. So high value deal. I want deals where we can make 50, 100, 200K by creating access. So like, don't bring the $5,000 deal to create access. It's not worth your time. It's not worth money. You've got to have close proximity to a road. So don't bring me the landlocked property that's in a sea of other landlocked properties. It's just too difficult. Most times it's too difficult. I want to see that if we're creating access, we're only going through one person's property, right? Trying to get easements from multiple neighbors is almost impossible. Trying to get it from one neighbor is very difficult. But again, there's no sunk cost here. Like maybe a little EMD to lock up the deal, maybe, but more times than that, it's not even necessary. And so even though your strike rate might only be 10% success on these, really no sweat off your back. Also, the response rate from these owners is much higher. So yeah, guys, that's the lowdown. If you want to get involved with Land Insights, you say, holy crap, this looks insane. Go down to landinsights.co/apply, schedule a demo call. We only have, I think it's 47 seats available. We just opened them up 2 days ago and they typically sell out like hotcakes. So I don't know when you're watching this, may or may not be available. If none are available, still schedule your demo call. We'll show you the platform and you can secure your wait list, putting a wait list deposit that's fully refundable if you change your mind, but that'll lock you in for the next launch.